My name is Rachel Morrison, and I'm about to tell you how I accidentally discovered my grandmother's secret inheritance. The one she told my entire family didn't exist. For 15 years, we all believed her. We trusted her. We took care of her every need because she said she was broke. She wasn't. And the day I found out, everything I thought I knew about my family shattered. I'm not talking about a little nest egg or some savings bonds. I'm talking about $4.7 million in offshore accounts, a paid-off mansion in Florida she claimed she sold, and investment portfolios so complex they required 3 financial advisors. My grandmother, the woman who guilt-tripped us into paying her rent, buying her groceries, covering her medical bills, was secretly wealthier than all of us combined. But here's what makes this story absolutely insane. She didn't hide it to protect the money. She hid it to test us. To see who would keep loving her when they thought she had nothing. And the test results? They destroyed our family from the inside out. Because once I found the hidden inheritance, I discovered something far worse than the lie itself. I found her journals. 20 years of entries documenting every family interaction, every conversation, every time someone helped her out of love versus obligation. She'd been scoring us, rating us, deciding who deserved what based on their behavior when they thought she was poor. And her final will, the real one, not the fake one she showed everyone, it named beneficiaries based on that secret scoring system. Some family members got millions. Others got nothing. And the reasons why? They're about to tear my family apart forever. Let me show you exactly how I discovered this. And why the first 10 minutes of this story will make you question everyone you trust. My grandmother, Dorothy Morrison, was 83 years old when this story begins. She lived in a small rental apartment in my hometown in Pennsylvania. 1 bedroom, cramped kitchen, outdated furniture from the 1980s. We all thought she was struggling financially. That's what she told us for 15 years. I'm living on Social Security, she'd say. Barely getting by. So my family helped. A lot. My mom paid her rent most months, $950 every single time. My Uncle Tom covered her car insurance and repairs. My Aunt Linda bought all her groceries and drove her to doctor's appointments. My cousin Jennifer took her to church every Sunday and stayed for lunch after. I visited twice a week, cleaned her apartment, and handled her bills. We weren't wealthy people. My mom worked 2 jobs. Uncle Tom was a construction worker. Aunt Linda was a school secretary. But we helped because that's what family does. Grandma Dorothy was a widow. Grandpa died in 2008 and we assumed he'd left her with nothing. She never talked about money. Never complained directly. Just dropped little hints. I wish I could afford that. That's too expensive for someone like me. I'm grateful for what I have. Classic guilt trips. But subtle. So subtle you didn't realize you were being manipulated. Here's the first weird thing I didn't notice until later. Grandma never seemed stressed about money. Bills arrived, and she paid them calmly. When unexpected expenses came up, she handled them without panic. I just thought she was good at budgeting. I had no idea. Everything changed on March 14, 2024. Grandma had a minor stroke. Not life-threatening, but serious enough for a hospital stay. I was listed as her emergency contact, so I rushed to the hospital. When I arrived, the nurse asked me to bring some personal documents from her apartment, insurance cards, medication lists, emergency contacts. Grandma gave me her apartment key and said, "Top drawer of my desk. Everything's in the blue folder." Simple enough. I drove to her apartment and let myself in. The place smelled like lavender and old coffee. Same as always. I went to her desk, a small wooden thing pushed against the living room wall, and opened the top drawer. The blue folder was right there. I grabbed it. But underneath it was another folder. Red. Unlabeled. I don't know why I opened it. Curiosity, I guess. Inside was a bank statement. From an account I'd never heard of. Morgan Stanley Wealth Management. The balance made my vision blur. $2,347,891.32. $2 million. In one account. My hands started shaking. This had to be a mistake. A typo. Maybe it was someone else's statement mixed into Grandma's papers. But no. The name on the account was clear, Dorothy Ann Morrison. I kept digging through the folder. Another statement. Different bank. Merrill Lynch. $1,456,782.19. Another one. Charles Schwab. $923,441.67. There were 6 different accounts. Total balance, $4,747,115. $4.7 million. My grandmother, the woman my mother was literally paying rent for, had almost $5 million in investment accounts. I sat on her couch in complete shock. This wasn't possible. This wasn't real. But then I found something else in that red folder. A property deed. For a house in Boca Raton, Florida. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. Waterfront property. Purchased in 2015. Fully paid off. The estimated value according to the attached appraisal, $1.2 million. Grandma told us she sold her Florida house years ago to make ends meet. She lied. She still owned it, and she was renting it out through a property management company for $4,500 a month. My brain couldn't process this. While my mom worked overtime to pay Grandma's $950 rent, Grandma was collecting $4,500 in rental income from a house she told us didn't exist. But I wasn't prepared for what I found next. At the bottom of that red folder was a leather-bound journal. I opened it to a random page. The entry was dated 6 months ago. Jennifer came by today, brought groceries and stayed to chat. She asked about my needs, not about money. She's genuine. Score, 9/10. She's earned her place. Score? Earned her place? What the hell did that mean? Now here's where things get really interesting. I started reading the journal from the beginning. The first entry was dated January 2009, right after Grandpa died. Richard is gone. The family thinks I'm broke now. Good. Let them think that. Time to see who really loves me. My stomach dropped. This wasn't an accident. This was a plan. Grandma had deliberately hidden her wealth to test her family. I flipped through page after page. Entry after entry. Each one documented a family interaction. And each one ended with a score. March 2010. Tom offered to fix my car for free. Spent his entire Saturday. Didn't complain once. Score, 10 out of 10. July 2010. Linda complained about gas money when I asked for a ride. Made me feel guilty for needing help. Score, 4/10. December 2011. Rachel came by on Christmas Day even though she had other plans. Cancelled her boyfriend's family dinner to sit with me. Score, 10 out of 10. April 2012. My son David called asking if I had any money to loan him. When I said no, he got angry and hung up. Score, 2/10. I couldn't breathe. For 15 years, Grandma had been secretly rating every single interaction with her family. Every visit, every phone call, every favor, every moment of care. She'd been keeping score like we were contestants in some twisted game show. And we had no idea. I kept reading. The entries got more detailed. November 2015. Tom discovered I own the Florida house. He saw a property tax statement I accidentally left out. I told him it's in a trust and I can't touch the money. He believed me. Good. His score stays high. So Uncle Tom knew about the Florida house. But Grandma had lied to him too, and he'd accepted it. February 2018. Linda suggested I move into a nursing home to save money. I know what she really wants. She wants me out of the way so she doesn't have to help anymore. Score dropping to 3/10. June 2019. David visited after 2 years of no contact. First thing he said, "How are your finances?" Not, "How are you?" Score, 1/10. He's lost his chance. September 2020. Rachel paid for my new glasses out of her own pocket. $450. She's in college, working part-time. That money meant something to her. She didn't hesitate. Score remains 10 out of 10. I remembered that day. I'd been 22, working at a coffee shop, barely affording my own rent. But Grandma needed glasses and her insurance wouldn't cover them, so I paid. She'd hugged me and cried and said, "You're such a good girl." The whole time, she had millions in the bank. I felt sick. But I kept reading because I had to know how deep this went. The journal entries continued through last month. And then, on the final page, I found something that made my blood run cold. A list. Title: Final Distribution, by Merit. Tier 1 Highest Scores, Full Inheritance Rights. Rachel Morrison. 10 out of 10. Average minus $1,500,000 plus Florida property. Tom Morrison. 9/10. Average minus $1,200,000. Jennifer Morrison. 9/10. Average minus $800,000. Tier 2 moderate scores, partial inheritance. Susan Morrison, my mom, 7/10 average minus $400,000. Mark Morrison, 6/10 average minus $200,000. Tier 3 low scores, minimal, nothing. Linda Morrison, 3/10 average minus $50,000. David Morrison, 1/10 average minus $0. Patricia Morrison, 2/10 average minus $0. At the bottom of the page, this is my final will. The real one. The will I showed the family is fake. I needed to see their true hearts first. The attorney has the real documents. Upon my death, they'll discover who earned my love and who didn't. I sat there on my grandmother's couch, holding proof that she'd spent 15 years running a secret psychological experiment on her own family. And I was the top scorer. I was getting $1.5 million plus a $1.2 million house. Because I'd been kind to her. Because I'd helped without expecting anything back. But here's the thing that made me feel absolutely insane. I didn't want it. Not like this. Not knowing it was a test. Not knowing she'd been lying to all of us for 15 years. My mom had paid probably $150,000 in rent over the years. Money she desperately needed for her own life. Uncle Tom had given thousands in car repairs and insurance. Aunt Linda, despite her low score, had driven Grandma to hundreds of appointments over a decade. We'd all sacrificed because we thought she needed help. And it was all a lie. A test we never agreed to take. I looked at my phone. 4 missed calls from the hospital. I called back. The nurse answered immediately. Oh good, you're calling back. Your grandmother is asking for you. She's doing much better and wants to see you. I'm on my way, I said. But I wasn't going to bring the insurance cards. I was going to bring the red folder. And I was going to ask her one simple question. Why? But if you think that confrontation was the shocking part, wait until you hear this. I drove back to the hospital with the red folder on my passenger seat. My mind was racing. What do you even say in a situation like this? Hey Grandma, found your secret millions while you were having a stroke. Care to explain? When I walked into her hospital room, she was sitting up in bed, looking tired but alert. Oh Rachel, honey, did you find the insurance cards? I closed the door behind me. Then I pulled the red folder from my bag and set it on her hospital tray table. Her face went completely white. Where did you find that? Under the blue folder. In your desk. The desk you sent me to. She stared at the folder like it was a bomb. I can explain. $4.7 million, I said quietly. The Florida house you claimed you sold. 15 years of journals scoring every interaction with your family. A secret will giving me $1.5 million. Tears formed in her eyes. Rachel, please. Why? That one word hung in the air. She took a shaky breath. Because I needed to know. Know what? Who loved me, really loved me, not my money, not what I could give them. Just me. I sat down in the chair next to her bed. Grandma, we all loved you. We all helped you. Some helped out of love. Others helped out of obligation. Or worse, out of hope that I'd leave them something someday. So you lied to us for 15 years to test us? She looked out the window. Your grandfather and I built that wealth together. Investments, real estate, smart planning. When he died, I suddenly had all this money and I realized something terrifying. What? I had no idea who actually cared about me. Every conversation started feeling transactional. Every visit felt like people were checking on their future inheritance. So you pretended to be poor. I simplified my life, moved to that small apartment, stopped mentioning money, and I watched. You watched us sacrifice for you. You watched my mom work 2 jobs to help pay your rent. Guilt flashed across her face. Your mother's help came with resentment, Rachel. I could feel it. She helped, yes, but she made sure I knew it was a burden. The comments, the sighs, the little guilt trips about what she was giving up. I thought about my mom. She did complain sometimes. About the money. About the time. About how Grandma expected too much. But she still helped. That doesn't make it fair, I said. No, it doesn't, but it showed me the truth. And what truth is that? That you, Tom, and Jennifer helped me because you genuinely cared. Not because you felt obligated. Not because you expected something back. You did it out of love. How can you possibly know that? She reached for the journal. Opened it to a page marked with a ribbon. Read this entry. It was dated 2 years ago. Rachel came by today. I pretended I couldn't afford to fix my broken TV. She didn't offer to buy me a new one. Instead, she brought over her laptop and spent 3 hours teaching me how to watch shows on streaming services using her account. She solved my problem without spending money she doesn't have. She thought creatively. She spent time, not money. That's love. I remembered that day. I'd been broke, but I'd wanted to help. Grandma, this is still manipulation. I know, and I'm sorry. But Rachel, I'm 83 years old. I've watched families destroy themselves over inheritance. Brothers who stop speaking, sisters who hire lawyers, children who can't wait for their parents to die. So you created a system to decide who deserves what based on secret scores, based on character, based on who showed me genuine love when they thought I had nothing to give. I looked at her, frail, old, scared, and suddenly I realized something. You're dying, aren't you? Her eyes filled with tears. The stroke was mild, but my heart is failing. The doctors give me maybe 6 months. Does anyone else know? Just you, and my attorney. Why just me? Because according to my journals, you're the only one I can trust to handle what happens next. What happens next? She reached for my hand. Her skin was paper thin and cold. In 2 weeks, I'm having my attorney read the real will to the entire family. They're going to discover everything. The money, the test, the scores, who gets what and why. My stomach dropped. Grandma, that's going to destroy everyone. It's going to reveal everyone. There's a difference. They're going to hate you. They're going to hate me. The ones who truly loved me will understand. Eventually, the ones who didn't will be angry. But at least everyone will finally see the truth. What truth? That love isn't transactional. That character matters. That how you treat people when they have nothing tells you everything about who you really are. I pulled my hand away. This is insane. You can't do this. It's already done. The will is filed. The attorney has instructions. 2 weeks from today, everyone will know. Then change it. Rewrite it. Make it fair. Fair? Rachel, your mother received over $150,000 in rent money that I didn't need. That's her inheritance. She already received it. She just didn't realize she was being paid back for her resentment. That's twisted. Is it? Or is it honest? She helped me, but she didn't enjoy it. She felt burdened, so I paid her for her service. Tom and Jennifer and you? You helped because you wanted to. That's worth more than money. That deserves inheritance. I stood up. I need to think about this. Rachel, wait. I'll come back tomorrow. But Grandma? I don't want the money. Not like this. Her face crumpled. You're the only one who scored perfectly. The only one who never wavered. The only one I trust. Then trust me when I say this. What you're about to do will destroy our family forever. I left the hospital room without looking back. And I spent the next 2 weeks trying to figure out how to stop what was coming. But I failed. Because 2 weeks later, that attorney called a family meeting. And what happened in that room changed everything. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. The family meeting was scheduled for April 1st. Everyone thought it was just a routine update about Grandma's health. My mom, Uncle Tom, Aunt Linda, Uncle David, Cousin Jennifer, Cousin Mark, Aunt Patricia. Everyone showed up at Grandma's attorney's office downtown. Grandma was there too, in a wheelchair, looking small and fragile. The attorney, Mr. Harrison, was a stern man in his 60s with wire-rimmed glasses. We all sat around a large conference table. Thank you all for coming, Mr. Harrison began. Dorothy has asked me to share some important information with you today. My mom smiled. Is this about healthcare decisions? We've been talking about power of attorney. This is about Dorothy's will. The room went quiet. Uncle David leaned forward. Is everything okay? Mr. Harrison looked at Grandma. She nodded. Dorothy wants you to know about her financial situation. Aunt Linda spoke up. We know her situation. She's living on Social Security. We've been helping support her for years. That's not accurate, Mr. Harrison said. He opened a folder and pulled out documents. Dorothy Morrison has assets totaling approximately $5.9 million. The silence was deafening. My mom's face went pale. What? Dorothy owns multiple investment accounts, a property in Florida worth $1.2 million, and various other assets. She is not, and has never been, financially struggling. Uncle Tom stood up. What the hell is this? Please sit down, Tom, Grandma said quietly. You've been lying to us? For how long? 15 years. Aunt Linda's voice was shrill. We've been supporting you. I've driven you to appointments for 15 years. And I appreciate that, Grandma said calmly. You appreciate it? My mom was shaking. I've paid your rent for 15 years. That's over $150,000. I know. And I've documented every payment. Mr. Harrison pulled out another document. Dorothy kept detailed records of all financial assistance provided by family members. Those amounts will be addressed in the will distribution. Uncle David's eyes narrowed. What do you mean, addressed? I mean, Grandma said, her voice stronger now, that I was testing all of you. The room exploded. People talking over each other. Accusations flying. Aunt Patricia started crying. Mr. Harrison held up his hand. Please, let Dorothy explain. Grandma looked around the table. For 15 years, I've watched how each of you treated me when you thought I had nothing. Some of you helped with love. Others helped with resentment. Some of you ignored me unless you needed something. This is insane, Aunt Linda said. This is necessary, Grandma replied. I needed to know who actually loved me versus who was waiting for me to die so they could collect an inheritance. My mom's voice was ice cold. So what, you've been scoring us? Like some kind of game? Grandma pulled out her journal. The same one I'd found. Yes, I scored you, based on kindness, consistency, genuine care, and selflessness. She slid the journal across the table. Uncle Tom grabbed it and started flipping through pages. His face went from confusion to anger to horror. You rated every conversation? Every visit? Every interaction? For 15 years. He threw the journal on the table. This is sick. This is smart, Grandma corrected. And Mr. Harrison is about to read you the results. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat and began reading from the official will. To Rachel Morrison, who consistently demonstrated unconditional love and selfless care, $1,500,000 and the Florida property valued at $1,200,000. Everyone turned to look at me. I felt like I was going to throw up. To Tom Morrison, who provided reliable support and genuine companionship, $1,200,000. Uncle Tom's eyes widened. To Jennifer Morrison, who offered spiritual care and emotional support without expectation, $800,000. Jennifer started crying. To Susan Morrison, that was my mom, who provided financial assistance but with clear resentment and obligation, $50,000 as repayment for services rendered. My mom stood up. $50,000? I gave you $150,000. You gave resentfully, Grandma said quietly. Every payment came with a comment about your sacrifice. Rachel gave $450 for my glasses when she was in college working part-time. She never mentioned it again. That's the difference. To Mark Morrison, who visited occasionally but primarily when convenient, $100,000. Cousin Mark said nothing. To Linda Morrison, who repeatedly suggested institutionalization and complained about caregiving burden, $25,000. Aunt Linda's face turned purple. You're punishing me for being realistic? I'm rewarding people who loved me when they thought I was broke, Grandma said. You didn't. To David Morrison, who contacted Dorothy only when needing financial assistance and became hostile when refused, $0. Uncle David exploded. Nothing? I'm your son and you're giving me nothing? You called me twice in 15 years, David. Both times asking for money. You scored a 1 out of 10. To Patricia Morrison, who avoided contact and delegated caregiving to others, $0. Aunt Patricia was sobbing. Mr. Harrison closed the document. The remaining assets, approximately $200,000, will be donated to charity per Dorothy's wishes. The room was chaos. People screaming, crying. Uncle David kicked a chair. My mom turned to me. You knew. I just found out 2 weeks ago. And you didn't tell anyone? She swore me to secrecy. You're a traitor. You and Tom and Jennifer, you're all traitors. Uncle Tom shook his head. Susan, we didn't know either. Bull. You're getting millions while the rest of us get scraps or nothing. Grandma's voice cut through the noise. You're all proving my point. Look at yourselves. The moment money enters the conversation, you turn on each other. You turn on the people who actually loved me. You manipulated us. Aunt Linda screamed. I revealed you, Grandma corrected. I showed you who you really are. And you don't like what you see. Uncle David pointed at her. You're a cruel old woman. I'm a woman who spent 15 years learning the truth about her family. And now you all know it too. He stormed out. Aunt Patricia followed, still crying. Aunt Linda grabbed her purse. I hope you're happy, Mother. You've destroyed this family. This family destroyed itself years ago. I just documented it. She left too. My mom stood there, shaking with rage. That money was supposed to help my retirement. I'm 58 years old and I've worked myself to exhaustion. And I gave you $150,000 over 15 years, Grandma said. You just thought it was rent. It was payment for services. You were never doing it for free. That's not fair. It's perfectly fair. You got paid for work you resented doing. Rachel did the same work out of love and is being rewarded for her character, not her labor. My mom looked at me with pure hatred. You're just like her. Calculating. Cold. She left. Suddenly it was just me, Uncle Tom, Jennifer, Grandma, and Mr. Harrison in the room. Tom looked at Grandma. I don't agree with how you did this. But I understand why. Thank you, Tom. Jennifer was still crying. I just loved you, Grandma. I didn't know it was a test. I know, sweetheart. That's why you passed. They both left, looking shell-shocked. Now it was just me and Grandma. She looked exhausted, small, frail. Are you happy now? I asked. No, but I'm at peace. You just destroyed our entire family. I revealed what was already broken. There's a difference. Is there? She reached for my hand again. Rachel, you're angry with me. I understand. But someday you'll see that I gave you the greatest gift possible. What gift? The truth. The absolute truth about who people are. Most people spend their whole lives wondering if they're loved for themselves or their money. You'll never have to wonder. You know. It doesn't feel like a gift. Not today. But when you're my age, when you're wondering who to trust with your own legacy, you'll understand. Mr. Harrison began packing up. Rachel, you'll need to come by my office next week to sign paperwork. I nodded numbly. Grandma squeezed my hand. I'm dying, Rachel. Within months. And when I'm gone, you're going to be the one holding this family together. There's no family left to hold together. Then you'll build a new one. With the people who earned it. I pulled my hand away and stood up. I need time to process this. You don't have much time, she said quietly. None of us do. I left that office and sat in my car for an hour, crying. My phone blew up with texts. Hateful messages from my mom, David, Linda, Patricia. Confused messages from friends who'd heard about the meeting. One message from Uncle Tom. We should talk soon. This is a mess. One from Jennifer. I love you, Rachel. We'll get through this. I drove home in a daze. And spent the next 3 days wondering if truth was really worth the price we'd all just paid. So what does all this mean for us today? 3 days after the will reading, I finally answered Uncle Tom's message. We met at a quiet diner on the edge of town. He looked like he hadn't slept. Neither had I. This is insane, he said, stirring his coffee. I know. Your mom won't talk to me. Linda blocked my number. David posted something on Facebook calling us all money-grubbing vultures. He got $0. We're the vultures? Tom shook his head. This is exactly what Dorothy wanted to expose. Look how fast they turned on us. Not on her, on us. He was right. The family members who got nothing or very little weren't angry at Grandma. They were angry at Tom, Jennifer, and me. Because we'd won the test. Does that seem fair to you? I asked. No. But it reveals something, doesn't it? They're not mad about the test. They're mad about the results. I thought about that. If my mom had scored high and gotten millions, would she be calling this cruel? Would Uncle David? Probably not. Here's what I keep thinking about, Tom continued. For 15 years, I fixed Dorothy's car. Drove her to appointments. Sat with her watching boring TV shows. And I did it because I loved her. I know you did. But now, looking back, I wonder if I was being tested the whole time. If every conversation had a hidden purpose. And that feels dirty. It was dirty. But was she wrong? I looked up at him. What? Was she wrong? Think about it. David only called when he wanted money. Linda literally tried to get her put in a home to get her out of the way. Patricia ignored her for years. But my mom helped. She paid rent for 15 years. With resentment. With complaints. With constant reminders of her sacrifice. That doesn't mean she didn't love Grandma, doesn't it? Tom asked gently. Real love doesn't keep score. Your mom kept score of every dollar she spent. She made sure Dorothy felt guilty for needing help. I hated that he was right. What about you? I asked. How do you feel about getting $1.2 million? He was quiet for a moment. Honestly? Conflicted. I didn't help Dorothy for money. But now I'm getting money for helping. It changes the memory of everything I did. That's exactly how I feel. But here's the thing, Tom said. We can't control how we got the money. We can only control what we do with it. What do you mean? Dorothy gave us a choice. We can take the money and feel guilty forever. Or we can take the money and honor her by using it the way she would have wanted, to help people genuinely, without expectation. I hadn't thought about it that way. I'm going to use part of mine to start a scholarship fund, Tom said. For kids whose grandparents raised them. Kids who understand what it means to love someone unconditionally. That's beautiful. What about you? What are you going to do with $1.5 million and a house? I didn't know. I'd been too angry to think about it. I might sell the Florida house, I said slowly. Use the money to pay off my mom's mortgage. Anonymously. Tom smiled. That's exactly the kind of thing Dorothy would do. But my mom will never know. She'll think it's luck or a bank error or something. That's the point. You'll help her without her knowing. Without expecting gratitude. Without her feeling guilty. That's still manipulation. Or it's generosity. Depends on your perspective. We sat in silence for a while. The family's never going to forgive us, I finally said. Probably not. Does that bother you? It did. But I've been thinking about something, Dorothy said. She told me once, years ago, the people worth keeping don't change when your circumstances change. She tested that theory extensively. And we all failed and passed in different ways. I looked at my cold eggs. I hadn't touched them. Tom, do you think Grandma was mentally ill? Like, was this test thing actually some kind of psychological disorder? He considered that. Maybe. Or maybe she was the sanest person in the family. She saw something most people are too afraid to look at. What? That money reveals character. And most people don't like what it reveals. 2 weeks later, Grandma died. Heart failure. Peacefully in her sleep. The funeral was tense. My mom came but didn't speak to me. David didn't come at all. Linda came and left quickly. Tom, Jennifer, and I sat together. After the burial, Mr. Harrison pulled me aside. Dorothy left you one more thing. He handed me an envelope. She wrote this the day after the will reading. Asked me to give it to you after her death. I opened it. Inside was a letter in her shaky handwriting. Dear Rachel, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And you're probably still angry with me. I don't blame you. I want you to know something. The test wasn't just for the family. It was for me too. I tested you all to see who really loved me. But I also tested myself to see if I could let go of bitterness. If I could forgive the people who let me down. If I could be generous even when it hurt. I failed that test, Rachel. I gave David and Patricia nothing. I gave Susan barely anything. I let my hurt turn into cruelty. You have a choice now. You can do what I did, let hurt turn into judgment. Or you can be better than me. The money I gave you isn't a reward. It's a responsibility. Use it to be the person I should have been. Generous without bitterness. Kind without keeping score. Helpful without testing. Don't make my mistakes, Rachel. Don't spend your life wondering who loves you. Just love people and trust that the real ones will stay. I'm sorry for what I put you through. But I'm not sorry for loving you most. You earned it by being genuinely good. Now go be good without keeping track. Love, Grandma. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket. At that moment, I made a decision. I would use the money. But I would use it the way Grandma should have, without tests, without scores, without manipulation. I would pay off my mom's mortgage anonymously. I would help Jennifer start the bakery she'd always dreamed of. I would donate to the charities Tom suggested. And I would sell the Florida house and use the money to create a fund for elderly people who actually were struggling, the ones Grandma pretended to be. I wouldn't tell anyone except Tom and Jennifer. I wouldn't expect gratitude or recognition. I would just help. Because Grandma was right about one thing. Character shows most clearly when nobody's watching. She proved that by watching us in secret. Now I would prove it by helping in secret. 3 months after Grandma died, something unexpected happened. My mom called. We hadn't spoken since the will reading. Rachel? Hi, Mom. Silence. Then, something weird happened. My mortgage company says my loan was paid off. In full. They won't tell me who did it. Do you know anything about this? I smiled. No. That's strange. It's $87,000. Someone just paid $87,000. Maybe it was a bank error? They say it wasn't an error. They say someone made an anonymous payment. Maybe Grandma set something up before she died? Maybe. More silence. Then, quietly, if it was you, thank you. I don't know what you're talking about. Rachel, I know I was awful to you. At the will reading, after, I was angry and hurt and I took it out on you. You were processing a lot. I was being a terrible mother. Her voice cracked. You didn't deserve that. And if you paid off my mortgage when I treated you like that. I don't even know what to say. Mom, I have no idea who paid your mortgage. But I love you, and I hope whoever did it loves you too. She was crying now. Can we have coffee? Can we talk? I'd like that. We met the next day. And slowly, carefully, we started rebuilding. Not because of money, but because of love. The kind Grandma had spent 15 years trying to measure. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. 6 months after Grandma's death, I received a package from Mr. Harrison. Inside was a USB drive and a note. Dorothy left instructions to send this to you 6 months post-death. She wanted you to have time to process everything first. J.H. I plugged the USB into my laptop. One video file, dated 2 days before Grandma died. I clicked play. Grandma appeared on screen. She was in her hospital bed, looking frail but alert. Hello, Rachel. If you're watching this, I've been gone for 6 months. And I imagine things have been difficult. Her voice was weak but clear. I want to tell you something I couldn't say while I was alive. Something that will change how you see this entire story. She adjusted her pillow. The test wasn't real. I froze. Well, parts of it were real. The money is real. The scores are real. The will is real. But the premise was a lie. What? I didn't hide my wealth to test your love, Rachel. I hid it because I was ashamed. She started crying. When your grandfather died, he left me with all this money. And I had no idea what to do with it. I'd never handled finances, never made investment decisions. I was terrified. She wiped her eyes. So I hired advisors, and they managed it, and it grew, and I felt like a fraud. I wasn't the one who built this wealth. Richard did, and after he died, I felt like I didn't deserve it. So I lived small. I lived like I imagined I should if I were just a widow on Social Security. And then something interesting happened. You all started helping me. And I realized I liked being needed. I liked being helped. She paused, looking directly at the camera. So I leaned into it. I let you all believe I was struggling because it gave me purpose. It gave me connection. But over time, I noticed patterns. Some of you helped with joy, others with resentment, and I started documenting it not to test you, but to understand you. To understand why some relationships felt nourishing while others felt draining. The journals weren't a test, Rachel. They were therapy. They were me trying to make sense of my relationships. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But then I got sick. And I realized I was dying. And I had to decide what to do with all this money. I could have split it equally. That's what most people do. But I thought about your grandfather. About how hard he worked for this money. About the values he had. And I thought, what would Richard want? Who would he want to inherit this? He would want it to go to people with character. People who helped without counting the cost. People who loved without expectation. So I turned my journals into a scoring system. I created a narrative where I'd been testing everyone. And I let that narrative play out at the will reading. She leaned closer to the camera. But Rachel, I want you to know, you didn't pass a test. There was no test. You were just yourself. And yourself is exactly who you should be. The others didn't fail a test either. They just revealed their true characters over 15 years of interactions. And I rewarded accordingly. But it wasn't a punishment or a reward. It was just honesty. I gave money to the people who made my last years beautiful. And I withheld from the people who made my last years painful. That's not a test. That's just consequences. She was crying freely now. I'm sorry for framing it as manipulation. I'm sorry for making you all feel like you were in some cruel experiment. The truth is simpler and sadder. I was lonely. I was scared. I was dying. And I documented my life because I needed to make sense of it. The will distribution wasn't about teaching lessons. It was about gratitude. I gave the most to the people who gave me the most joy. That's all. She wiped her face. Now, Rachel, here's what I need you to know. Your mother loved me, I know she did, but she loved me with resentment. And that's not her fault. She was exhausted, overworked, struggling with her own life. Linda loved me too, but she loved me with impatience. She wanted me to be easier, less needy. David loved me once, but he stopped when I stopped being useful to him. These are not evil people, Rachel. They're just human, flawed and complicated and doing their best. You, Tom, and Jennifer loved me with grace. You made it look easy even when it wasn't. You made me feel valuable even when I was difficult. That's why you got more. Not because you passed a test, but because you gave more. She looked exhausted now. I'm going to die soon. Probably within days of recording this. And I want my last message to you to be this. Don't judge your family too harshly. They're not villains. They're just people who couldn't give what they didn't have. Some people have more capacity for selfless love than others. That's not good or bad. It just is. Your mother couldn't help with joy because she had no joy to give. She was drowning in her own life. Linda couldn't be patient because she had no patience left after dealing with her own struggles. David couldn't connect because he's been broken for a long time and doesn't know how to fix himself. But you, Rachel, you had joy to give. Even when you were broke. Even when you were struggling. You still had enough light to share. That's not because you're better than them. It's because you're different. Your capacity is different. So use that capacity wisely. Help people, love people, but don't expect everyone to love like you do. And please, please forgive me for turning my loneliness into theater. For making you all characters in a story I told myself to make sense of my life. The money is yours. Use it however you want. I trust you. But more than the money, I give you this. Permission to love people as they are, not as you wish they were. That's the real inheritance. She smiled weakly. I love you, Rachel. Not because you scored well, but because you're you. Goodbye, sweetheart. The video ended. I sat staring at the black screen for 20 minutes. All this time, I thought Grandma was running a cruel experiment. But she wasn't. She was just a lonely old woman trying to understand her relationships before she died. The test was something she created retroactively to justify the will distribution. But the truth was simpler. She gave more to the people who made her feel loved. That's not manipulation. That's just life. I called Uncle Tom immediately. Did you get a package from Mr. Harrison? Yeah, just watched the video. Are you okay? I don't know. Are you? It changes things, doesn't it? Knowing there was no test. Does it? I think so. It means we weren't performing. We were just being ourselves. And ourselves was enough. But it also means the others weren't failing a test. They were just being themselves too. Exactly. And their themselves wasn't enough for Dorothy. But that doesn't make them evil. Should we tell them about the video? Tom was quiet. I don't know. Would it help or hurt? I think it might help. They could stop feeling like they failed something and start understanding that they just gave what they could. Or they could feel even worse knowing Dorothy documented their flaws not as a test but as a catalog of disappointments. He was right. I decided to tell my mom. We met for coffee, our weekly ritual now that we were rebuilding. I brought my laptop and played her the video. She watched in silence. When it ended, she was crying. She was just lonely. Yeah. And I made her feel like a burden. You helped her, Mom. For 15 years, you helped. With resentment. With complaints. She was right about that. You were exhausted. You had every right to feel resentful. But I didn't have the right to make her feel it. We sat quietly. Mom, I think Grandma's point wasn't that you were wrong. It's that some people have more capacity for caregiving than others. And that's okay. It's not okay. You were in college, broke, working part-time, and you still showed up with joy. I was an adult with resources and I showed up with attitude. I wasn't supporting 2 households. You were. I wasn't working 2 jobs. You were. That's an excuse. It's a reason. There's a difference. She looked at me. When did you get so wise? From a grandmother who spent her last years trying to understand love. My mom smiled through tears. She succeeded, didn't she? In a really twisted way, she figured it out. Yeah, she did. If this opened your eyes, here's what I want you to take from this story. So that's the complete story. The hidden inheritance that ruined, and then rebuilt, my family's trust. Let me give you the biggest lessons I learned. 1. Love isn't about keeping score, but people naturally keep score anyway. Grandma tried to measure love objectively. She failed because love isn't measurable. But her attempt revealed that we all instinctively know when love is genuine versus obligatory. 2. Capacity matters more than intent. My mom intended to help Grandma, but her capacity was limited by her own struggles. That doesn't make her love less real. It just makes it different. We can't judge people for only giving what they have to give. 3. Money doesn't create problems, it reveals them. Our family wasn't destroyed by the inheritance. It was destroyed by the hidden resentments, unspoken expectations, and unequal emotional labor that the inheritance exposed. The money just forced us to look at what was already broken. 4. Forgiveness doesn't require understanding, just acceptance. I don't fully understand why Grandma did what she did. But I accept that she was doing her best with her pain, her fear, and her need to make sense of her life before she died. 5. The best inheritance isn't money, it's clarity. Grandma's gift wasn't the $1.5 million. It was showing me exactly who in my life was real. That clarity is priceless. Now, here's what happened after I watched that final video. I made 3 decisions. First, I told Tom and Jennifer everything. We agreed to use our inheritance to create something Grandma would be proud of, a foundation that helps elderly people genuinely struggling, not just pretending to struggle. We named it the Dorothy Morrison Foundation for Honest Connections. It funds programs that reduce isolation for elderly people and provides resources for family caregivers who are overwhelmed. In 1 year, we've helped 127 families. We've funded respite care for exhausted caregivers. We've created support groups for elderly people who feel lonely. We're turning Grandma's pain into purpose. Second, I reconnected with my mom, Linda, and Mark. Not because they scored high on Grandma's list, but because they're my family. And family is messy and complicated and imperfect. My mom and I have dinner every week now. She's slowly accepting that she did the best she could. And I'm learning that loving imperfectly is still loving. Linda and I have coffee once a month. She apologized for suggesting Grandma be institutionalized. I apologized for judging her capacity. We're building something new. Mark and I aren't close, but we're cordial. That's enough. Third, I let go of David and Patricia. Not with anger, just with acceptance. They showed me through their absence that they weren't interested in rebuilding. And that's their choice. I respect it. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is stop trying to force connections that don't want to exist. Now, here's what I want from you. First, drop a comment answering this specific question. Have you ever discovered that someone in your life was testing you without your knowledge? How did it feel? I read every comment. This community is built on honest conversations about messy family dynamics. Your story matters. Second, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. I share real stories about family secrets, hidden truths, and the complicated relationships that shape us. If this story resonated, there's more coming that you need to hear. Third, watch the next video I'm linking in the description. It's about a woman who discovered her husband had a secret daughter he'd been supporting for 18 years. The confrontation is absolutely wild. You don't want to miss it. Fourth, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe someone dealing with inheritance drama. Maybe someone questioning whether their love is being measured. Maybe someone trying to understand why family relationships feel so transactional. This story resonates because it's emotionally true. We've all felt tested by people we love. We've all wondered if we're being judged or scored. We've all experienced that moment when money reveals who people really are. Now let me tell you where I am today, 2 years after Grandma died. I still live modestly. I kept my job. I drive the same car. The Florida house sold for $1.3 million. I used that money to fund the foundation and pay off debts for family members who were struggling, anonymously, just like I did with my mom's mortgage. My mom thinks she's had incredible financial luck lately. She doesn't know it's me. And she never will. That's the point. I learned from Grandma's mistakes. She helped people but kept score. She loved people but with conditions. I'm trying to love without conditions. Help without expectations. Give without needing recognition. It's hard, really hard. Because there's a part of me that wants credit. That wants people to know I'm the reason their life got easier. But then I remember Grandma's final video. Her admission that the test wasn't real. Her confession that she was just lonely and scared and trying to make sense of her relationships. And I realize, Real love doesn't need a scoreboard. Real love just loves. The foundation is growing. We're expanding to 3 more states next year. We're hiring full-time staff. We're making a real difference. Tom runs the day-to-day operations. Jennifer handles community outreach. I oversee the finances. We're a team. The 3 people who scored highest on Grandma's test, working together to prove that we deserved it not because we were better, but because we had more capacity to give. And we're using that capacity to help others build their own capacity for caregiving without burnout. That's Grandma's real legacy, not the money. The recognition that some people need support to be supportive. Last month, I visited Grandma's grave for the first time since the funeral. I brought flowers, sat on the grass, talked to her like she could hear me. I forgive you, I said out loud. For the journals, for the scores, for the theater of it all. I understand now that you were just trying to make sense of things. And I'm doing the same thing with what you left me. I hope wherever you are, you're at peace. And I hope you know that your test, real or fake, changed me forever. Not because I won, but because I learned what you were really trying to teach us. That love is complicated, that people have different capacities, that money reveals truth, and that forgiveness is the only way forward. A breeze blew through the cemetery. The flowers swayed. And I swear I felt her there with me, smiling, proud, at peace. So here's my final thought for you, whoever's watching this. If you're dealing with family drama, inheritance fights, or relationships that feel transactional, remember this: people can only give what they have. If someone loves you with resentment, it's because resentment is all they have left. If someone loves you with conditions, it's because unconditional love is beyond their current capacity. That doesn't make it okay. But it makes it understandable. And understanding is the first step toward forgiveness. You don't have to keep toxic people in your life. But you also don't have to hate them for being who they are. You can simply accept that they gave what they could, even if it wasn't enough. And then you can move forward with the people who do have capacity to meet you where you are. That's what I'm doing. Building a life with Tom, Jennifer, and my mom, the people who showed up. And releasing David, Patricia, and the others, the people who couldn't. It's not about winning or losing. It's about being honest about what is. Grandma spent 15 years documenting what was. And then she distributed her wealth accordingly. Was it fair? Maybe not. Was it honest? Absolutely. And sometimes honesty is the most loving thing you can offer. All right, that's the story. The hidden inheritance that exposed everything. The grandmother who turned loneliness into a test. The family that broke apart and slowly rebuilt. If this moved you, you know what to do. Subscribe, comment with your story, share with someone who gets it. Watch what's next. And most importantly, go love the people in your life without keeping score. Because life is too short to document every interaction. Too precious to rate every conversation. Too valuable to spend testing people's love. Just love them, as much as you can. For as long as you can. And let that be enough. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of this community where we talk about real life without judgment. I'm Rachel Morrison, and I'm done keeping score. See you in the next video.